Everyone dreams of living an uncommon life, and the best asset you have to achieve your dreams is you. Welcome to the Uncommon Wealth Podcast. We're going to introduce you to people who are living uncommonly. We're also going to give you some tools and strategies for building wealth and for pursuing an uncommon path that is uniquely right for you.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Uncommon Wealth Podcast, where I'm your host, Phillip Ramsey. Today we have the one and only Jason Reynolds, which is a pediatric palliative care doctor. But the reason why I wanted him on the show is because he is implementing medicine 3.0. And what the heck is that, you say? That is when he takes the medicine and the knowledge that he knows from the medical field and tries to implement that to live a longer, healthier life. Holy cow. I feel like I need that in my life. That's why he's on the show. So Jason Reynolds, thank you so much for being on the phone. Dr. Jason Reynolds, everyone.
Oh, thanks, Philip. I'm just so excited to be on your show today and get this opportunity to reconnect with you. It's such a blessing.
So reconnect. What's that mean? So 17 years, no, is it 18?
Yeah, 18? I think coming up on 18.
18 years ago, Jason and I were in a small group or a Bible study together. His wife, Nicole, and my wife, Erin, were all in the small group. We got to do life together. And I always connected with Jason. I just loved the way he thought about things. He had a different perspective on the medical field back then. And then it's evolved to this point now. But I want you to talk about your background. But before we do, I wanted to give you a personal story about Jason Reynolds and how he's impacted my life. Do you know what I'm going to talk about?
Oh, I have a couple ideas, but I'm anxious.
Okay. All right. Well, I won't let you guess. I'll tell you. Okay. So back when we were all living life together, doing our Bible studies, meeting every week, I thought it was a great idea to run a marathon.
That was number one.
Yeah. And so I had two goals in my marathon. It was to get under 4 hours and to not walk. Those are my two goals. Okay. And so I trained hard. But no one can really train you for the last 4 miles of a marathon because you don't ever train that much. You end up going to like 20 miles or maybe 21, maybe 22, maybe. But after that, it's like you're in uncharted territory and you got to let your adrenaline carry you through. So I'm in this marathon and I'm about 20 miles in and I'm like, things are not going well. Like I am tired. I'm worn out. I'm bored out of my mind. You can only imagine. And there's these, I call them Sherpas, but there's these people that run with signs and they hold up a sign and the sign says the time that they're going to finish the race. This is important because you can run with those people and smart people would probably get with the group that they'd want. So in this example, the 4-hour group would have been a really good person for me to run. Well, I didn't do that because I was young and naive at the time. And so I just go off my own. About 3.5 hours later, I'm looking behind my back. This is about 22-mile mark. And I'm like, that 4-hour group is going to pass me pretty quick. So I'm just like dreading that time because I'm going pretty slow. And my indicator was I looked over at some cheer honors, I guess you can say, the crowd. And there's a person in a walker, like an old walker. And I'm like, either they're going fast or I'm going really slow. And I'm like, I don't think he's going fast. Sure enough, about 5 minutes later, the 4-hour group passes me like I'm walking backwards. Super defeating because, again, one of my goals, 4 hours. So I'm now going kind of uphill and I'm like hating my life and I'm about ready to walk. And I kid you not, like my next step, I'm walking because I can't get my 4-hour group or I can't beat my 4-hour goal benchmark. And so might as well just throw in the towel. And out of nowhere, I hear, Phillip, Jason Reynolds. Again, this is Sunday. I didn't mention this. Jason comes from church in all of his Sunday's best, his Sunday church shoes. He's got his nicest shoes on. He's dressed for church. And he's yelling at me from the crowd. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I kid you not. Like the Lord used Jason that day. And he ran with me to get me past the 4-hour group in his church clothes.
Yeah, my church shoes.
Yes. Right. You remember this, right?
I remember the church shoes.
Yes. Okay. So we get past the 4-hour group and now we have like maybe a half mile left, maybe 3/4 of a mile. And Jason's sweating, like he's in no shape to be doing this with his attire on. He probably is in great shape, by the way, at that time. and now. But so then he's like, hey, you can take it on from there. True story. The 4-hour group passed me again, like I was walking backwards after Jason left. And then there was another guy that ran it, Aaron Sage. Remember that guy?
Yep. Yeah. I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah. He came back and we beat him. My official time, I think, was 3 hours, 58 minutes.
He was probably on his
59
second
seconds.
lap when
he probably was. Yeah. He finished it and came back for me. But I think the cool thing about that, one, it tells you Jason's good at reading people because he saw that I was like a walking zombie, not looking great, but he knew my goals and he cared enough to just run alongside of me. The other thing too, I would say, is just the power of community, because there's no way I could have got that goal without a community. And so such a cool life lesson, but it also kind of shoots your character of like, I'm in my church clothes, but a buddy needs me. And here we go. So,
oh, that's right.
Wow. There you go. There's my story. But,
yeah, that's a great story. That was number one on my list of stories from that time, our time in Iowa. That was fun. That was fun.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you saying fun. It was a memory for sure. But all right, how did you get to where you're at now? Because you haven't always been in this palliative care, pediatric palliative care place. Like when I met you, you were an ER doctor. You've gone through kind of the gamut of the medical field. Right. Tell me kind of your journey to get you where you're at today.
That's a great question, Phillip. And sometimes I look back over my career and ask myself the same question, like how did I get here? And to some degree, it's almost like I'm a little bit of a medical sort of vagabond or a nomad. I go from place to place, and but I think as you've mentioned before, I think sort of God has a plan for you, and sometimes you're not ready for where He ultimately is leading you. So yeah, I started off in pediatrics, ended up in the ER when I was in Iowa with you guys. When we left Iowa, we went and worked down in Houston at Texas Children's and helped build a sedation program in the anesthesia department there to work with kids that were having procedures done while awake. It was quite traumatic, as you might imagine. And so we spent a lot of time working out a program to make that sort of a peaceful and painless process for the kids and their families. And then I did that for about 10 years, but I felt like I was really being pushed sort of in a little bit different direction. It was kind of a fortuitous scenario. I had gone to St. Jude for a conference on pediatric palliative care. It just seemed like something that would be interesting to learn more about, and maybe I could use that in my practice in Houston. It was obviously a lot of cancer kids there and how their symptoms were being managed and sometimes how end of life was being managed. And it really resonated with me as sort of a purpose-filled, meaningful place to work. And I noticed sort of around me that sometimes that work was not done well. Sort of in the medical community, we tend to lean in on things that we can fix. And when we run into something we can't fix very well, we tend to sort of lean out. And there's probably no part of the medical journey that needs your doctor to lean in than the end of that journey. Sure. So as luck would have it, they had somebody that was coming to work in their training program that had to back out last minute. So I want to say in about the middle of June, they sent out an email saying, hey, all you people that are at this conference, if you'd like to come and do some specialized training, we've got a spot. And then 3 weeks later, I sold my house and moved to Memphis. Sight unseen. It was one of those things where I told Nicole, I said, hey, there's this opportunity at St. Jude in Memphis. This sounds like this might be a good thing to consider. What do you think? And she said, let's do it. And when your wife says, let's do it, you're doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. How many kids did you have at that time? So Nicole's your wife, and then you have 4 children, 3 bulldogs and a princess. So
that's right. We had the whole circus at the time. So we sold the house, picked up the circus, and moved to sight unseen. We rented a house, which by the way was like one of the best years of my life from a sort of responsibility standpoint.
Call the landlord.
The kids were, Anna, our youngest was not, I don't think she was in school yet. And then our 3 boys were in elementary school. So we plugged them into the school system there. Nicole was our domestic manager in that new location. And then we spent a year in Memphis learning how to do pediatric palliative care and hospice. And then I we're native Texans, and so there was an opportunity in Fort Worth, where I'm at now, at Cook Children's, to join the program there. And so I've been here for about 8 years, working in hospice and palliative care.
Wow.
And most of what I do is not hospice. Most of what I do is helping kids with medical complexity, and particularly their families, sort of navigate the medical system,
Right.
make sure they're getting all their questions answered. Sometimes there's hard choices to make. It's not clear what the right thing is to do. We help them with that. And then, we do a lot of symptom management. And for those kids that do have a life-limiting condition, we make sure that their journey and transition into that space is as painless and peaceful as possible. And we support the whole family. It's a whole
Sure.
family.
Yeah, it's a whole deal. Right. You think about the doctors that have high knowledge and very poor bedside manner. I can only imagine that you're just wise. The knowledge is there, but also just the care and understanding through a very tough time. My two questions are, how do you not take that home? And then the other is, how does your faith play into the overall conversations and just talking to these families in like the hardest position in their life, right? So
Sure. So I'm gonna answer the second question first.
Okay.
I get that question quite a bit, and I'm not sure how anybody could even begin to operate this space without a sort of a Christ-centered, Christ-focused, God-centered view. At the end of the day, I mean, it's hard to imagine losing a child, but there's probably no better test of faith than losing a child, right? Because your child is going where we're trying to get, right? Is sort of my general construct over that. Now, if there's something that we can do to keep them here a bit longer, or certainly if there's something we can do to cure an underlying condition, but when we get into the space where there's really not a lot of medical options that can delay the process, or worse, there's a lot of medical options that just add a lot of additional burden without much benefit. It's sometimes trying to help families navigate that journey to allow their children to get where they're going, right? Which is the place that we're all trying to get. So without that construct, I mean, this would be an impossible job, and for families that don't have a faith structure, it certainly is
a different
much
path.
different experience. So that's how I do this. I mean, I know where these kids are going. I know it's a better place. I know there's no suffering, and so when it's their time, I want to help them get there in a painless and peaceful way, and support their families through that.
And support their families. Like that's probably almost a bigger position, a bigger job description.
That's where the healthcare system really struggles, because that's when you have to lean in, right? You have to lean into these families in uncomfortable situations.
Be empathetic.
There are no words. There are no treatments. There are no labs. There are no medicines. There are no.
And there's no books out there that's written for this.
There aren't.
And even if there were, that would maybe work for one circumstance, but probably not a lot, right?
That's right. That's right. You gotta be present, right? You know that you gotta be present, meet them where they're at, and then sort of walk the journey with them. And so that's how I do this. I think I have, some sort of really God-given composition to work in this space.
I agree. Like there's a gift there that God has given to you, and not many people have it. So praise the Lord you found where you're at, because
and you look back over my journey working in the ER, worked in the ICU a lot. My journey has been bringing me to this.
Yeah, totally.
Preparing me. And I wouldn't have been able to operate in this space if I was trying to start out there,
But the breadcrumbs were laid. The breadcrumbs were laid.
That's right.
Okay, heaviness. Take it home.
So your first question though is like, how do I not take this home?
Yeah.
And I asked that question a lot when I was doing my training to some of my mentors, like, how do you not take this home? And I don't really have a good explanation for how I don't take it home, other than sort of God protects me in that context.
It's a gift. Yeah.
And my mentors, my main mentor is Justin Baker, who was at St. Jude, and just an incredible individual. You can YouTube him. He is just an incredible individual. So we've got some great TED Talks, and he was super helpful. But he told me that you'll leave work at work and you'll go home and do home and try not to sort of commingle the two. And I've been
Mhm.
pretty good about that where I do my work when I'm at work. I have a, 20 to 45 minute commute at home, depending on what's going on. And it's like this transition phase where work stays behind. And then there's certainly enough sort of domestic distractions to help me forget about work. But I don't have a lot of trouble. The one thing that I have to do is I can never see my kids in the kids
Mm.
that I care for.
Mhm. Mm.
So there's one sort of mental process that I boundary, if you will, that when I
Mhm.
see an 18-year-old boy that looks or has the same name as my kid, like I don't go there. I don't
Yeah.
allow myself
Right.
to go there. I can never see my kids and the kids that I'm caring for. And occasionally you can't help it, right? Like occasionally and we have one of the things that we do in the program here is we're really focused on building resiliency and
Mm.
mitigating burnout. And so we have plenty of other physicians and nurse practitioners and other clinicians that
To lean on.
can step in when we do find ourselves in a situation that we're struggling to sort of not see our own kids.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I read a book, or I should say, listened to a book, Jason. It was called The Art of Dying. I can't remember who wrote it. I'm
Yeah.
sure you've read it, but
I have. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it was really good. And he said basically in history, with all the bubonic plagues, it was like we
Yeah.
had to learn how to die well.
Right.
And then it's quickly turned into Western medicine of like now we have to the art of living
Yes.
and living as well as we can. And that's why I kind of wanted to get you on the podcast because you have a really good balance of both. Like
Yeah.
there is a finality of death that we need to die well, but
Right.
we can set ourselves up for that moment to die well. And so
Right.
this is where implementing medicine 3.0 kind of came in. And so all these breadcrumbs has led you to be able to, one, be an amazing gift to the people that you get to practice with and just meet with and work through some really hard situations. But the other thing is then taking the medicine that you've known, the history that you've known, and try to implement this on yourself in order
Sure.
to live a life that you're excited to live and be healthy and enjoy things in a way. So let's talk about this, the art of living a little bit and
Okay.
how implementing medicine 3.0 started and where it's at now and all that.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I mean that's a great question. That's a big question. A lot to cover there. But Ars Moriendi did you read the Ars Moriendi book, which is the
Yes.
original
Yep.
Art of Feeling? Yeah,
Yep.
incredible book.
Incredible. Yeah.
Incredible book, and it's almost a philosophical book. You have to
It
sort of
absolutely is. And it changes
unpack
that
it.
way of like, oh, okay. Like, and
Yeah.
community is a big thing there, right?
Right.
As a,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting, that you point that out in that, dying was a community process. It was a community experience is probably a better way to say it that
yep.
everybody experienced starting from the time you were old enough to recognize that you were losing someone. And in fact, most people's sort of second living room, if you will, historically that's where they would go to die. And everybody in the community, young and old, would come over and pay their respects and be part of that process.
Absolutely.
So people
Yeah.
knew how to die because they watched people go through the dying process, and they went through a normal and natural dying process, which is usually painless and peaceful if you allow it to play out in a normal way.
Yes. And it was around the corner for them. Like it was like,
Right.
and this could happen to me tomorrow. Like, so it was a little
Right.
different,
Right.
a different deal.
Right. So I think one of the concepts that you're talking about is this concept of compression of morbidity.
Hmm.
Really medicine 3.0, which is not my concept. That's Peter Attia's concept in his book Outlive. I think he was the one who originally coined the concept and wrote a book on it. Has an incredible podcast that really dives deep called The Drive. It's really his concept and I read the book and I said, okay, this makes sense to me, and I want to see if I can apply these principles in my own life. I actually looked into getting into his clinic, which was just out of my price range.
I know that feeling, Jason. Yeah.
Right. So I subscribed to the $20 a month podcast or maybe $20 a year. It's something I could afford. I learned a lot there, and then tried to start implementing these concepts in my own life since I couldn't afford the real thing. But what you're talking about is really compression of morbidity, and there's this incredible graph that he has in the chart that shows sort of the normal lifespan. Let's just call it 80 years, and somewhere around 55 to 65, you kind of cross this arbitrary dotted line where your quality of life is not what it once was. And I'm not talking about like you can't run a marathon, like type of quality of life, but like maybe it's hard to get around. You can't go hiking in the mountains like you used to. You have trouble picking up, the grandkids. There's some sort of arbitrary line that you cross. And a lot of people cross that line, somewhere between, 55 and 65, depending on sort of how their health, what their health looked like prior to that. And the first concept that he presents in the book is health span versus lifespan. And so health span is the idea that instead of this line dropping off, it stays flat for as long as possible. It stays well above the 50th percentile, or well above that area where you start to lose some of those capacities, if you will, that many people enjoy with life. And so you want to optimize your health spans, keep your health span high for as long as possible. But what the medical system does, and this is what I've seen in my own personal life, is the medical system does a great job of, when you get to the very end, sort of dragging that process out, or spending a lot of effort
keeping that vegetable state
alive so much, but keeping you from dying. And there's a long period of what we call morbidity, where you've got a lot of, maybe you can't breathe well, you can't walk well, you can't really participate in life in the capacity that you'd like to, because of your underlying. And what we want to do, what we all want to do, is we want that period of time to be as
short as possible.
Compress morbidity.
Yes.
We're all going to have some morbidity. It's inescapable. We're all going to die. Like, the whole concept is not about like, I don't want to die or live forever. I mean, who wants to do that? But rather than have a long period of being hooked up to machines and living in and out of the hospital, why not have a short period of time where, yesterday or last week or 6 months ago, you were sort of functioning at a very high level, and then there's a very sort of short and precipitous decline, and you can pass away quickly and peacefully, generally in the context of being surrounded by loved ones who they love and care for you. So compression of morbidity is something that's really a big concept that aligns with me. And the reason in my own personal journey that's come up is because Nicole's mom went through an Alzheimer's journey.
That's tough. That is tough to watch.
It's so tough. It's so tough. And it's just hard. I mean, hard obviously for her, but also hard for all of her children. And there are not a lot of good options.
Family. Yeah.
And here I am. I'm a physician. I've got training in palliative care, which is sort of helping people navigate the end of life space. And even for me, I found it very hard to help navigate that space. My own mom had Parkinson's and passed away with dementia. And so I also got to see her journey. And so in my own personal life, and of course, having friends and family members that are dealing with the same thing, you start to ask yourself, is there anything that I can do to
right now
to either, really it's not about not dying or completely eliminating these conditions. It's about delaying them for as long as possible, and sort of compressing that time that you have to deal with these things, into the shortest period possible. And it's sure, some of it's selfish, right? Like I'd rather not be in a memory care facility for a decade. But it's really more, from my perspective, it's more about like what I leave behind, right? Like, I don't want my children to have to care for me any longer than they have to. I mean, I hope they will care for me when I need care, but if they can do that for 6 months instead of 6 years, I want to do everything I can to support that. And then from a financial standpoint, I mean, it's catastrophic. It is absolutely catastrophic. Memory care is $10,000 a month. Many patients with dementia or Alzheimer's will live, 5 to 15 years.
10 years, yeah, right.
In memory care, the average sort of total cost of care for dementia patients is about $400,000, from diagnosis to death, and the out-of-pocket expense is about 70% of that. So, just your average family that has a dementia diagnosis is going to be out $300,000 caring, and of course you do whatever you have to do to care for your family members, but still, if you can mitigate any of that sort of
it's a burden,
carnage, if you will, you certainly want to do that. So that's a lot of.
And then just from a biblical perspective, like we're supposed to be good stewards of what the Lord has given to us, and so that also includes our body, right, and the temple.
Absolutely, right. Absolutely. Good. So that's kind of how I got here and what I've been up to.
Okay, so the way that I kind of connected this is LinkedIn. You do a great job of posting things on LinkedIn and things that you've tried, or like things that you read about and then you tried on yourself. And so I used to be a pharmaceutical rep, which only really not a lot of people know, but Jason knows this. And I would come up to physicians and be like, hey, here's a double-blind placebo study with this many things, like all this stuff. Anyway, the average person doesn't really care about those studies. Like the person off the street's not reading these journals that have these things. But what we do care about is like people who are implementing this stuff on themselves and in helping us understand from a medical perspective what's happening and how the progress is going and what they're learning. And that's what you've done on your LinkedIn. So Jason Reynolds linked him. He'll say, yeah, he'll accept it. And then you can read some of the stuff he's doing. And I think it's fascinating. So let's talk to our listeners just about that kind of what you're posting, what you're learning, kind of like, and then at one point I'm going to say, what's the top 5 principles that you are like, these are the things that I think probably has the most impact, but not yet. Let's just talk about the LinkedIn. Hit me.
So I think there's 2 things that you hit on there. The main reason that I started with LinkedIn was accountability. There's probably nothing more helpful than having some level of accountability. And when you get into a public space and you start saying, hey, I'm trying to do these things, these are my goals, and 100 or 50 or 200, if anybody's watching, you have this level of accountability.
Absolutely. You sure do. Yes, you do.
So that was my initial impetus of starting that. But the other side of it was, we don't have a knowledge problem in America or, in the West. We have an implementation problem. We know absolutely what we need to do or we should do, but we have no idea how to actually do those things. And the reason we have no idea how to do those things is because people just like me, people in the healthcare world don't do them. And we've never tried to do them. We know what you're supposed to do. And we tell patients all the time, well, you should eat a healthy diet and you should exercise and should get good sleep and all these things, but we don't do them ourselves and we have no idea how to actually do them. Right. So it's an implementation problem that we all have. And so that's how the sort of the name came around of implementing medicine 3.0. I'm going to try to figure out how to actually do this in my own life. And the reason that I came to that conclusion is because when I was a pediatric resident, I was, single, unmarried, no kids, 20 something, and I have these moms come in with like 6 kids. And here I was like giving them parenting advice. And it
totally. I know. Yes.
Like such a joke.
I felt like such no credibility here.
Right. So I said, I want to be able to, help other people with this. But the only way to really help other people with this is to figure out how to do it myself. If I can't do it, I certainly can't, help other people do it. So that's really been what the journey's been about. And
that's cool. So. Okay. So top 5 things that you feel like you've learned from this journey of implementing medicine 3.0 and things that you'll like continue to do after you've tried them out.
Right. So, I think there are really three big pillars. And I think this is a sort of another knowledge thing. I think we all know that we need to move around and get some exercise.
Yep.
I think we all know that we should eat right. And I think we all know that we need to get good sleep. Sleep seems to be the thing that's the most in the news lately. And I would say my whole life, I've felt like I've done pretty good at all 3 of those things. So the first thing that is important is to have some sort of metric that you can track.
How do you measure this stuff?
Yeah, some sort of measurement, objective measurement that you can track that it tells you if you're actually doing those things right. And I think what probably lit the fire the most for me was I went and got a DEXA scan. I don't know if you know what a DEXA scan is. It's a body composition scan.
Okay.
They're pretty widely available now. You can get one for like I get them for like $40. It's like a van that drives around and parks in Whole Foods, and they
So super safe. It's
right,
great.
super safe.
Super
It's a little
sketch
sketchy,
van. Just get in, pay 'em money.
but what it does is it tells you exactly what your lean body mass is and what your fat mass is. And I'm 6'4", and I probably oscillate between 185 and 205, and I never really look like I'm obese. But when I got the DEXA scan, my visceral fat was like off the charts.
Okay.
And visceral fat it's exponential. Like it's not that bad as you accumulate visceral fat, but once you start accumulating too much, it really sort of takes off in an exponential fashion. And even though I felt like I was pretty healthy, my visceral fat was like wildly off the chart, put me at about six-fold greater risk for cardiovascular disease and diabetes and other things. And at the same time, I got a hemoglobin A1C, which is sort of the test for diabetes. And I was actually pre-diabetic, which which shocked me.
Shocking, yeah.
So what I thought I was doing, or what I was doing, and what I thought was healthy was not actually translating to some of the markers that we know are strongly tied to all-cause mortality and clinical outcomes. So those two metrics were probably the most important metrics, but there are a number of other things that are easier to measure that support those metrics that predict all-cause mortality. So it's important to have some metrics, I think, or some measurement to assess, am I healthy, am I not healthy, so that you have some goals that you're working toward.
Right. So once you get the DEXA scan results, what do you do next? Like, okay, got to eat healthier, got to exercise.
Right. So that's another great question, like leading perfect. So, I follow every health influencer for the most part, and just like when we lived in Iowa, I've had this sort of self-experimentation mindset. I read a book by Dean Ornish, and then another guy, Michael Greger, and they're like, "Oh, you just got to eat plants all the time."
I know those ones.
If you eat a steak, you're going to die tomorrow, and so I was like, "Okay, I'm doing
no
it."
steak for us. Yep.
So anyway, then I tried various other diets, but the diet that I was working on at the moment, or at that time, was this sort of ketogenic diet. I was losing weight. I felt pretty good. But again, my sort of metabolic markers, or measurements, if you were, didn't really correlate to what I was seeing.
And did you get the DEXA scan? That was how you kind of measured that. And then did you do it once every 3 months, or what was your cadence of that?
So I thought, well, I'm gonna optimize getting rid of visceral fat. Like I'm an extremist, right? I'm gonna knock this out in 6 weeks. So
dude, you and I are kindred spirits.
I'm like, tell me how much exercise I need to do, and what do I need to do? I need to lift weights, or high intensity. What do I need to do? I need. So that's part of the implementation process, right? It's not that easy. It's not that easy, and it's really multifactorial. And so I implemented the zone 2 training. I learned what is zone 2 training. What is the heart rate that I need to be targeting? How often do I need to do it? How long do I need to do it? So I put that layer in. I put in a little bit more resistance training, but I didn't feel like that was going to be a big part of it. I put in, some high intensity interval training, because I felt like, there was some research that said that was helpful.
It's got to help, right?
It's got to help, right? It's got to help. I tried to, I stuck with the ketogenic diet, if you will, because I felt like there was some data to support that, and that was gonna help me get there faster. And all those things were helpful, but really the thing that helps me understand the big picture better, and this is probably lesson number 2, is that right about, and I wrote a post on this I think it's the surprising benefits of vacation or something along those lines. But
wow.
I was working hard for about 6 months, and I'd made a lot of progress. And then it was time to go on vacation with the family. And we'd been planning for a while this sort of epic adventure through France and Italy and Switzerland. And I just this is, I've been working hard for 6 months. I'm going to totally blow it. Like I'm going to come back and
the wheels are coming off.
The wheels are coming off. I'm going to eat the gelato and all the French pastries.
I love
and
it.
it's going to be terrible. But what happened was I went over there. It was a 3-week vacation, which was a rarity. I went over there. It took me about a week to forget about all the daily stresses of my life here in the States. And then I walked everywhere. I ate the food that was available, which was all sort of locally sourced, fresh, organic food. I didn't have to try to find that stuff. That's just all they have over there. I was walking up and down through the mountains, probably getting some higher heart rate training, getting fresh air out in the forest with the trees, looking at the mountains when I got up in the morning, getting the morning sunlight and all these sort of little things. And I was actually living the healthy lifestyle. I wasn't just doing this or that or this or that. I sort of put it all together in a way that was sort of hitting all the boxes. And when I came back, my visceral fat magically dropped by about half. It was finally sort of in that low risk category. I'd lost about 5 pounds.
Let's go.
My VO2 max, which is another sort of good measurement or marker for longevity, was the highest it had ever been. Despite the fact that I wasn't sitting on the Peloton or doing these other things, I was just hiking through the mountains and walking everywhere, and that was a real eye opener. And so there's not a single thing that you can do, right? And that's why everything fails. We want like a pill. Tell me the one thing that I need to do and I'm going to be fixed. And it's not a one thing. It's really, it's all of it. And it's putting it all together, and moderation in all of them is much better. It's all synergistic, if you will. Doing a little bit of each thing is much better than doing a lot of one thing.
So do you like the wearables, the Whoop, the Ring? Which one do you like, or which one do you decide what? I just want you to endorse one because I wear one. I'm not going to tell you which one until you tell me which one's better. And then I'll tell you if I
So as you might imagine, I've tried them all. I have, I would say the one that I use the most is just a Fitbit.
Okay.
And I don't use them all the time. I try to use them in a targeted way, because when I'm using them in an untargeted way, they tend to sort of create some level of anxiety. I'm sort of checking it. What does this mean?
There's validity to that, for sure.
Yeah. And there's like the Whoop in particular, there's a concept, and I mean, the Oura Ring could be the same, but there's this concept with trying to improve your sleep that makes your sleep worse, called orthosomnia.
Yep. Or you have a great night's sleep and you look at your Whoop, you're like, wait, I didn't? And then you're like, I guess I feel like crap.
Right. And you feel terrible the day. So at the moment I'm working on my sleep. I'm really spending a lot of time trying to understand how to improve my sleep. And at the moment I'm using the Oura Ring for my sleep because I feel like it has a bit better. I don't know that the sleep metrics are markedly better than the Whoop, but there are a couple of other things that come with the Oura that are unique, like the pulse wave velocity to assess your vascular health, and it has a 6-minute walk test to give you a different way to look at your VO2 max. And I just wear it at night. I don't wear it during the day.
Yeah. Less intrusive, right? For sure.
Right.
Man, it's fascinating just when you start going down these rabbit holes, how, I don't know, like you can just get pigeonholed, and you're kind of a kindred spirit myself. But what I like about what you're doing is you're keeping that data and you're putting that out so we can consume it. And I love it. So I just think it's great. So last thing I want to say, because I give our guests pretty much every time we have somebody on the show, I give them this time to say, like, where would you be without Nicole? Because, like if you think about it, it's bananas, but we never get to really edify them. And so this is my thing. So you've had a very successful career. I feel like the future with what you have and the way that you've uniquely connected the breadcrumbs and how God's gifted you is like the sky's the limit with you, Jason. Yeah. But where would you be without Nicole and what she's done for your career and your family? Huh? It's a good question, isn't it?
There's one word. I would be lost, right? Like I was lost before Nicole came in my life. And I would be lost if she was not in my life. I would be totally lost. She is really the glue that holds our family together. I'm an extremist. I'm a type A, and she can see a little bit different picture. She is the CEO of our domestic operation, and she is heavily invested in our kids, and her husband and our family, and our faith journey, and especially keeping our kids on track, right? Like, I think you mentioned it earlier. There's kind of a yin and a yang, or whatever you want to call it, between moms and dads, and dad kind of like, just let them burn their hand and they'll learn. And mom's like, well, maybe we can do without the burn and they can learn.
We can do things different. Can we though? Are we okay? We should do that different. That's probably right.
Yeah. So, I mean, she is really the glue for the family. I would be totally lost without her. There's no way I would have gotten to where I'm at professionally without her. I can't remember if we had talked offline about this, but when we went to do the palliative care thing, it's because she's like, yep, that's it. That's what you need.
We're doing
do.
this,
and we're doing it. And I never would have done that on my own, and clearly that's what God had in mind for me. And he put her on this earth to help me accomplish what he had in mind for me.
Totally. Right. That's good.
Yeah. But
Jason,
the real thing, the last thing I want to say about that is that, marriage and parenthood is clearly about sanctification, right?
yes.
I would have zero chance, I think, of working myself into heaven without my wife,
Totally.
to help me sort of work on my own sanctification.
I tell people there's 3 huge sanctifying things in my life. The first one is I got married, and I'm like, wait, what? I'm not perfect? Like, what? Then it was kids. I was like, oh, I see them do things, and I'm like, that's not going to benefit you because that's like me, so don't do that. And the third thing is running a business. Like that has been really humbling. And I feel like you're basically a business owner as well, just with the leading things you're doing with your practice and medicine. And so I agree, but so grateful for where our spouses take us and the support they give us. Because I tell people, this is kind of my tagline, like if the whole world's against me, but Erin's with me, my wife, I'll tackle the world. Like, let's go get them.
That's right.
But if the whole world's with me and Erin's against me, like I'm upside down, so it's that one person that can really fuel you to be all that God's kind of intended you to be. And they also the barometer, right? Like if you would have told her like, hey, we're doing this. And she's like, no, we're not. And you'll be like, okay, I guess we're not. They're also the voice of reason.
It's so true.
Yeah. So Jason, thank you so much just for your wisdom and just putting yourself out there as not only be held accountable, but authentic and just using the way that God's wired you and your giftings to benefit not only just your listeners or readers, our listeners of LinkedIn, but also the people that you get to interact with every day. Because it's super impactful. And that's part of the reason why I wanted you on the show is like Uncommon Wealth is a lot about how much are you impacting other people. You're not just using these gifts to just make you rich. You're using these gifts to go serve people, go serve God people. And you're doing a great job with that. So if our listeners wanted to hear more about what you're doing or read your LinkedIn, how would they connect with you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn at implementing M3, for medicine 3.0. So you can find me there. I have a small little Twitter account, but I don't use that too much. And I have a website that's not sort of fully up and running right now at implementingm3.com. But really LinkedIn is really my platform. I'm not trying to make a lot of money or really any money at the moment off of this. I'm just trying to, one, hold myself accountable, try to understand how do we implement these things in my life and so that I can help others implement the same things in their life if they so desire. So LinkedIn's really the way to find me.
It's good. It's worth it. It's worth checking them out. And you're putting up great content. So again, thank you so much for being on the show. I have a feeling you're probably going to be a return guest and we're going to talk about all the things that we're learning. But it's grateful. I'm grateful just to have you in my corner or to be a part of my community. And I'm thankful for just all the ways that you've impacted my life. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being on the show, Jason. You've been listening to the Uncommon Wealth Podcast. Until next time, go be uncommon and hold yourself accountable. Thanks for listening.
That's all for this episode, brought to you by Uncommon Wealth Partners. Be sure to visit uncommonwealth.com to learn more about our services. Don't miss an episode as we introduce you to inspiring people who are actively pursuing an uncommon life.